Okay, here we go. Welcome in, everybody, to the Radio Misfits. James is here. E is here. We're all here. I don't know what happened there, boys. What happened? E, didn't you get the link?
No link.
No link. I sent you 2 damn links. I'm taking a look at them right now.
It said link 2, but I never saw link 1.
Nobody knows or cares about the behind the scenes.
Sure they do. They do. They find that it's, no, you're right, James, not all the time, but on occasion, I think it's certainly something that people find interesting. I sent you the first one at 8:54. I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't go. That doesn't seem like something that's, welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Monday. We're going to pretend it's Monday. How are you guys? Now, first of all, let me just tell you something. Can I just give a fine shout out to a sponsor? I jacked up my back something terrible last night. As a child, I sustained some pretty serious back injuries. And so, you know, they always tell you as an old man, you're going to do something. And you're probably there too. You probably have these situations where you just do something. It's a normal day. And then you're fine until the next morning when you wake up and you're like, holy crap, what did I do? Well, I wrenched my back moving this studio, which is one of the reasons that we had to put the show off yesterday. I had to move the studio. We moved a giant mattress. It was just crazy. I have been messed up all day with severe lower back pain. And I just started using this stuff, my Sacred Oil CBD cream. And look, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Have you used CBD cream for anything? And now what I would say is, E or James, I would say this is what you would use the way we might used to use Bengay or Icy Hot or something like that. Have either of you any experience with these products, these CBD-based therapeutic creams and that sort of thing?
I have not, but I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I have answers. All I can tell you is that it worked almost instantly. An hour ago, I couldn't cough. If I coughed,
and then you just like sprinkle a little bit of that in your bong.
No, dude, look at this. It's cream. Medical. I know you're being silly. No, it's like a medical cream.
Does it feel like Bengay when it's on?
It does. Look, it's not to the extent that Bengay burns and tingles. There is a slight burn and tingle. Like it feels like maybe there's a little Bengay mixed in there. But I mean, I can tell that it's on. I put it on. The only time I'd used this before was for my ankle a couple of months ago. And my ankles usually heal pretty quickly on their own, so I didn't really notice anything. This is the first time that I've really noticed that, holy cow, within 20 minutes, this CBD bullshit is real. I don't know what it does. Look, Bengay is real. We know that that's real. That works. But this is some kind of variant of that same thing that's going on, that they're just slapping CBD on. And it doesn't get you high, though. You know, that's not what CBD does.
I wish, though, it didn't have the Bengay element in it. And then you were telling me, oh, I feel better. Because I wonder, like, is this something that...
Psychosomatic?
Yeah, that. Yeah, and it's got a little bit of the Bengay, you know, kind of mechanism going on. So is the CBD really doing that? But it seems to me that if there are 2 types of CBD, right?
I don't know. You're talking.
Well, I mean, there are two.
I don't know.
Well, there's 2 types of strands, right? There's sativa and indica, and indica is more of a body high, and the other one's more of a head high. Would then not maybe an indica CBD? And I'm guessing
there's no high with CBD. CBD is the stuff that doesn't get you high. It's the oil that's extracted from the plant that is not part of the THC or the stuff that gets you.
But is an indica-based CBD, I guess, have more?
Well, no, what I'm telling you is that that's not a thing, indica-based or sativa-based. That's not a thing because CBD doesn't get you high. Indica and sativa are the things that get you high. Those are THC types. There is no THC in here. So it wouldn't be an indica-based or a sativa-based.
All right.
You understand? Well, it's basically like they
took... I do, but it seems to me like if I had an indica plant or a sativa plant, CBD would be a derivative out of either one of them.
Well, what CBD is, do you remember when we used to have the album covers and you'd separate the seeds and the stems and all the stuff that you didn't smoke because it didn't get you high? That's what CBD is. They're taking that waste product, the stuff that doesn't get you high, and they've discovered that it can be used medicinally for certain things.
So 98% of the THC is contained in the flowers and the buds and the crystals and stuff like that. And then it seems like close to 100% of the CBD is contained then in the flowers and the stalks and all the leaves.
Leslie says that she seems to know about this. She says it's eucalyptus. James, you know anything about this stuff?
Jack squat.
Okay. All right. Anyway, very good. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with how quickly it seems to have, because I'm in a lot of pain, like irritating pain. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to sleep. Like I can't get comfortable because there's always like a flash of pain every 30 seconds from my lower back. But we will muster on. All right, fellas.
Epsom salt bath.
Does that work for you? Is that something that you
well, I've heard that helps.
Yeah, I've heard it helps too. That seems like something old people did before they recognized how.
Well, why are the old people using Bengay and feeling better?
Because Bengay actually works.
Well, why then wouldn't you trust the Epsom salts?
I suppose you're right. It just seems like a very ancient kind of medicinal therapy. I don't know what. When were you supposed to like not fall asleep in an Epsom salt bath? Isn't that like one of the deals they used to say?
I think you're maybe not supposed to drink the bath salts.
Yeah, well, I think
or smoke them.
I don't. Yeah, I think if you like drink Epsom salt water, it gives you diarrhea.
There's James. You can see James has no credibility, so we never know if his information is authentic or. If
I've heard like if you want to play like some bad trick on somebody.
Yeah.
Like to give them like diarrhea, you take like one of those eye drop things.
Yeah, like in Wedding Crashers, and since that movie came out, they had to take that ingredient out of the eye
drops
because everyone was doing it.
Because we can't be trusted because we're just a bunch of animals. All right, boys, what's on the agenda for today's Radio Misfits show? We gather every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. to talk about any number of things. Let me just throw a couple out here. E has seen the two biggest films in America, the only films in America, actually, because
I would argue with that. I believe there are three big films in America.
Well, the two that are going to save Hollywood are the ones that everyone's talking about.
Oppenheimer and Barbie. What's the other one?
Yeah.
The other one?
Uh-huh.
The child exploitation movie.
Oh, that Sounds of Freedom thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think that's done well. I don't think it's done Barbie Oppenheimer well.
No,
you know what I mean? I think that's a small movie that surprised a lot of people because of its independent distribution and whatnot. James?
Yeah, so I think it was number one like the weekend before July 4th and the weekend after, but that's a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I guess people are still watching it. And if it's still out there, I'm kind of surprised because I've noticed in my childhood that a movie would be out for a month, and if it was good, it would pick up steam, and people could keep it going for like 3 months. Or if it sucked, it would just go away after a month. Now, all movies are just in there and out in a month.
In and gone. Sounds of Freedom, though, the movie you're talking about, E, they also did it in sort of a way that is non-traditional Hollywood, where church groups sell out entire busloads. So they sell out theaters ahead of time. So their pre-sale looks huge. So it's not like it's the walk-up like Barbie and Oppenheimer. A lot of what who was the first to really do that, James? Somebody did that really well and made a shit ton. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson with Passion of the Christ. That's where that started, where he went to church. He went to churches across America and said, look, we want you guys to load up buses and do this and blah, blah, blah. And it turned out for him. It made it one of the most financially successful films of all time. If you can tap in to the Christian groups and get them to pre-order tickets, you'll debut number one with a movie that cost you $6 million to make.
I think this movie has done that. I saw all three movies this weekend.
Yeah, Sounds of Freedom absolutely has. They were talking about that beforehand. Hold on, let's see the comparisons though, because there's actually a story here. The numbers are in for July's summer blockbuster movies, but how does the surprise hit Sound of Freedom compare with newly released mega hits Barbie and Oppenheimer? Moviegoers have been anticipating the release of Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer for months now, and both have performed spectacularly at the box office on their opening weekend. However, the beginning of July brought glowing headlines for Sounds of Freedom, which surprised industry forecasters with an outstanding result at the box office. Sound of Freedom, released on July 4th, 2023, has made the news recently for multiple viral videos and stories from viewers who say they were unable to watch the film at theaters for a number of reasons, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, come on. Let's see the damn numbers. Caviezel stars in the surprise box office hit. The movie is now coming up against summer blockbusters Barbie and Oppenheimer. trying to find some actual number. You know, like they do. They like to put like, 2 pages of bullshit before they give you what you're looking for.
In the 18th paragraph.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Even now, as Barbie and Oppenheimer have taken over the top 2 spots at the box office, Sounds of Freedom's popularity has helped it take 3rd place ahead of Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford's respective movies. Sounds of Freedom has made a total gross of $124 million to date, and earned $19 million over the July 21st through 23rd weekend. So just this past weekend, it made $19 million. But it's been out for a bunch of weeks. So, you don't really look at the 3rd weekend take, but 19 million is still strong. Barbie and Oppenheimer, which both released worldwide on July 21st, have already outperformed Sounds of Freedom. So Barbie and Oppenheimer in just 4 days have done more than what Sounds of Freedom did being released 3 weeks ago. But it's undeniable that it is the big surprise summer. They used to call them sleepers. The sleeper hit, but it ain't Barbie and Oppenheimer territory.
Well, and the other thing is it doesn't have, just like Oppenheimer did not have the runway of Barbie, Sounds of Freedom does not have the runway of either Oppenheimer or Barbie. And what I mean by runway is the access to theaters and the amount of showings. I mean, clearly here in the Metroplex, if you wanted to go to an Oppenheimer movie, you had a lot less opportunity than you did to go to a Barbie movie.
Right.
And I think, when you're going and you're grading ticket sales and you're saying, well, hey, Barbie did 180 million, Oppenheimer did, 90 million. It's not really fair because they anticipated prior to, I think, these movies getting to the market, how they booked their movies and their inventory of what they were going to have on the screens, as, hey, Barbie's going to have more people interested in it than Oppenheimer. And so I'm not quite sure that I agree with all this Barbie Oppenheimer comparison because I don't see Oppenheimer having the same opportunity.
All right, well,
we didn't play with little Oppenheimer dolls when we were kids.
Hold on, let's do it officially. It's a new segment. We're calling it E. E goes to the movies. James doesn't know what that is. E, do you remember the old 1970s General Cinema opening credits from movies?
Is that?
You remember it had like the G with the film coming out of it?
Right, I do remember that.
All right. Our good friend E, who watches no TV, we've established.
Hang on, this is some pop culture reference that I don't get. This music is some pop culture reference that I don't get.
It's just a movie like
I just had a 10-second conversation with E about it. Were you not paying attention?
No, I was, but like, what the hell?
Yes, James, it is a pop culture reference that you don't get. That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Well, you didn't explain it though. So I remember before the movie come on, there'd be like a G with like stuff coming off of it.
No, I said, remember the old General Cinema theater theme? Yes. Before the movie would come on, the G with the film. And E got what I was saying.
Okay, I hear you. But I mean, what? Okay.
So yeah, it's a pop culture reference you don't get. You failed. You didn't get that, and now you're on the outside, and your ego won't let you just go, oh, so you're a little butthurt.
I wouldn't go that far. I was just confirming, like, this isn't part of the story or part of a movie that you think I've seen before. Like, I'm not supposed to know this.
I just liked it as a theme for a movie segment because it's free use.
I apologize
for gotta find free use material, James, so that you can play on the show. And hooray for Hollywood is not free use. All right, he went to all 3. He did a big movie weekend. Boy, it was him and the boy. Now, it started off pretty bad. You made up for it because it started off, you were taking your son to see Barbie, and your son did not want to go see Barbie. I want to make that clear in defense of Dom. Dom was not down ahead of time to see Barbie.
Well, truth be known, he was down to see Barbie, but when his motive to see Barbie was not going to see Barbie, then he wanted to bail on Barbie.
Wait. What does that mean, James? Did you understand that? I need that.
He was wanting to go because there was a girl involved, and then when there was no longer a girl involved, he lost interest.
There you go, James. Spot on.
Look at that. All right. So apparently Dom was getting hoodwinked into going to this movie because there was probably or possibly a girl that was going to be there. And then he committed to going. The tickets were purchased, and then the girl bailed.
Well, there was no hoodwinking. He thought in his mind that there would be a good chance that the girl would go to the movie. So he encouraged me to invite them, because I'm friends with the dad,
I got you. It was
to the Barbie
okay.
movie.
All right. Respect.
And so I gotta hand it to him. I thought it was a little gamesmanship before as to how he worked it.
Mm-hmm.
So then when they canceled and said they weren't going to the Barbie movie, then he didn't want to go to the Barbie movie. And that's when he played it off to you like, oh, I was dragging him to the Barbie movie, minus the part that he was the reason why we were going to the Barbie.
Look, I got to tell you, I thought it was weird when I thought it was just you and Dom going to see Barbie. I thought that was a little weird. But then I learned, there were other people wrapped in, and I get it. Because at that point, it just becomes a pop culture experience, and you're just there to witness what everybody's talking about. But as long as you two weren't like dressing all in head to toe pink, and showing up in line.
No, but I definitely will say there were people that were giving me crap prior to going to the Barbie movie about going to the Barbie movie.
Me, I was one of them.
No, and other people that knew that I was going, that I was texting or I'd said something to.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, so there is that kind of stigma out there if you're a dude going to a Barbie movie.
I think they're just ribbing you. I don't think anybody really cares. Do they?
Did you go to the Barbie movie?
No, I certainly didn't. I'm straight. But
did you see what they looked like at the box office when they got there at the Barbie movie?
Yeah, actually, my daughters went. I think all my kids went. No, just my daughters went, and they said it was a pretty good movie. My mom took them, and she said it was okay. It's kind of weird, but good overall. And it didn't sound like it was overtly political or trying to cram any sort of.
It's fucking Barbie. Would you people stop with that?
Please,
you can't handle Barbie. It's a fucking plastic doll.
I understand where that's coming from because they've taken so many of these remakes and just absolutely crapped on brands and characters and stories that we've loved before. There's no shortage of great ideas and stories that have been ruined by a Hollywood remake. So, Granny says it wasn't ruined. Kids liked it, so I'll probably watch it eventually.
The Barbie movie? All right, so I don't know anything about it, right? Like
I will say
hold
that
on. We're going to turn it over to you. We're going to give you the review. Let's establish James and I our feelings on it. I love Margot Robbie. I love Ryan Gosling. I think they're great. I'd see them in anything together. I mean, I really do. I love them both. The cast looks great. The filmmaking and the cinematography of Greta Gerwig look absolutely beautiful. Looks cool. Looks very much like how Edward Scissorhands looked, or The Truman Show.
Greta Gerwig?
What's that?
Who you said Greta Gerwig?
She's the director. She's the writer.
The Truman Show and.
No. But the way the Truman Show, and especially let's look at Edward Scissorhands. When you looked at the town in Edward Scissorhands where they lived, it looked like reality, but also not quite reality. Like maybe a dream version of reality. That's kind of what this whole Barbie with the colors popping and everything is, So I'm very intrigued by those aspects. Today I watched the trailer in anticipation of having this conversation because I really don't know anything about the Barbie story, this movie. I don't know anything. So I watched the trailer and it really looks stupid. I mean, it looks so fucking stupid. It looks so dumb, like painfully dumb. Glorious to look at. Looks like it was beautifully done and looks like a well-made movie. But I'm a 54-year-old man. I don't have time for that nonsense. And now we're going to turn it over to E, who saw Barbie. Give us the lowdown.
All right. So I would say I went into this movie with a Pugs.
With a fully charged phone and earbuds.
with the Pugs type thought process. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to this movie, I don't know this Barbie. I don't know much about Barbie, blah, 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 blah. And so I really didn't know what to expect, where I felt like when I was going to the Oppenheimer movie, it had a direction. So that being said, we go, Barbie's the first movie, and we get there, and immediately as we're getting out of the car and walking into the theater, I'm like, and we went to Studio Movie Grill, I'm like, wow, this is different. Like, people were getting out of their car dressed in pink, and the amount of people that were going to the Barbie premiere on Thursday night, like the opening of Thursday night, dressed in pink was just crazy.
Well,
I mean,
that's
I
the
think it
difference.
was probably 7 to 8%, 70 to 80% of the people.
That's the difference in why Hollywood needs these kinds of things. This is not just a movie. You want to go see a movie. This is event filmmaking. Going to see Barbie where people are dressing up like the characters. I mean, this is why it could have either been what it is, which is a massive hit, or a huge failure. Was it sold out? Was it elbows to
It was
assholes?
sold out. There was no way. Like, so we had the extra 2 tickets, right? This is how good it was. So we had the extra 2 tickets. We walked in, and we didn't know what to do with them, because like there weren't people that wanted to go to the Barbie. I'm a dude. Like, I wasn't finding people to go to Barbie, and so they were like, "Well, hey, you have extra tickets," and we're like, "Yeah." They're like, "We'll take them." And so immediately they refunded them back, and within 2 seconds there was somebody sitting next to us that had purchased them. So yeah, tickets were that short of demand. So we get in
So
there,
wait,
and
who's we? Because we learned that the attractive young ingenue for Dom is not there. So it's you and your son
and Wendy,
and your wife.
Wendy
Okay.
went, yeah, and
So
so
family
the
trip.
three,
Now I'm guessing
yeah.
mom really wanted to see Barbie. I'm guessing mom was more excited than her two boys.
Actually, she was excited to see Barbie, and she was upset that she had not decided to dress up because she had heard people were dressing up, and so she was actually upset that other people had gotten dressed up and she didn't. But then she somehow figured out how to get a pink hoodie on and figured out that she fit in there. So we get in there and we start watching the movie, and it's really this trip of Barbie is going from Fantasyland, where girls in Fantasyland and in Barbie Land, are pretty much important
I was
to
going to say, I
the
believe it's branded as Barbie Land, not Fantasyland, right? It's Barbie
well,
Land.
but it is a fantasy
Good.
land for women in Barbie Land, because they are priority. And when it gets into the real world, they try to show in the real world it's more of a man's world, and Barbie's not so significant. But in Barbie's world, Ken is kind of the secondary person, and Barbie's significant and Ken is not. And so they take off on that jaunt, and I wasn't sure how funny or how long they were going to be able to ride it, but they wrote it, and they wrote it well for a long time, with Barbie being manufactured by Mattel. They brought the Mattel line into it. They brought Will Ferrell into it, and he had,
doesn't he play the president of Mattel or something like that?
He plays the president of Mattel, and he's at board meetings, and he interacts in a way where that was really kind of funny. And then they had the girl from Saturday Night Live, Kate McKinnon.
So wait a second. So long story short, it's Barbie in Barbie Land. Something occurs in her life, an existential crisis, and she finds herself out in the real world as Barbie, where her only understanding of the world is Barbie Land. Right. So now she's suddenly in the real world, looking all like Barbie, all hot and stuff, just walking around. I bet she got into, was her, what was more of the movie in Barbie Land or in the real world?
It's tough to say it was the real world ever, because she's walking around in the real world in this fantasy kind of, Alice in Wonderland looking place. Yeah. With Barbie and Ken costumes on, which at that point started to look at them both being gay, or he being her, gay partner, boyfriend, or not boyfriend, but her gay, friend that's a male, and they're just traveling around the world. And then it was like, the other thing that was great is I think Ryan Gosling, really made the jealousy between him as kind of the original Ken, and then all the rest of the men, how they filled in as Kens as well. But there was like an Asian Ken and a black Ken and a, this and that. And so once you got into the stupidness of it, and it just kept on getting more ridiculous and more ridiculous, like you said, it looked dumb. Yeah. A lot of movies I find myself, after I'm in them, I'm like, wow, this is really dumb, but it's a funny dumb. And that's where I came out with this
And if
movie.
you can just be open-minded, you can enjoy anything. I just don't want to sit in a movie knowing that that's going to be the subject. But I have no doubt that when it comes around on video or Netflix or whatever, I'll pop it on and I'll give it a look, and I might watch the whole thing. All right, so
And there were like, you know, spiffs on the dolls, like how they had come out and showing off the different dolls. And I don't know if this was true or not, but like, you know, some of the dolls like that they showed is, you know, Barbie, you know, a version of it. There was one where they said if you lifted her arm and you moved it, it made her breasts inflate.
no.
If that's true,
Nice.
It's a 60s or 70s thing.
yeah, like it was like if that is actually true, I want to collect that doll. Like, but I don't know if it's true or, you know, it's like they do on the Freak, like it's, you know, Steve's Snake Farm or something like that. Like some of these were made up that way. But yeah, there were versions of it. There was a pregnant version of Barbie, and I think her name was Meg.
Is that a real thing? Was there a pregnant Barbie?
I don't know. I like that's what I sat there and I'm like, now I'm actually curious. I want to go and I want to see these people that collect Barbies. You know, what were all the different, and of the Barbie show, how many of them were real, and this, that, and the other.
James, Greta Gerwig, for, you know, she's one of the most sought after female directors in Hollywood. She did Little Women a couple of years ago. She also did Lady Bird, which she was nominated for Oscars for and all that. And now she's got Barbie, and she's following up Barbie. This is why, you know, get to know the name Greta Gerwig. She's following up Barbie with an equally anticipated version, a live action version of Snow White. That's what she's working on next to follow up Barbie.
Where they took out the dwarves because it was so offensive to everyone but Peter Dinklage.
Is that it? Is that, well, I don't know.
They only left one dwarf in there. It's not like 6 wives and then sort of like this UN council of different ethnicities and Peter Dinklage. So it's weird because dwarves are offensive, so we took the dwarves out. Right? No, we left one. Well, are they offensive or not? Well, no, because we have one in there. Well, then why'd you take out the other 6? I don't know. We needed a black fella and a woman and some ambiguously brown people in there. It just seems like a bad start.
Here's exactly what you're talking about. January 22nd, 2022. In an interview with Mark Maron on the What the F podcast, actor Peter Dinklage, who suffers from dwarfism, suffers, is that the proper way to say it? Isn't that offensive to somebody who that's their reality? Are you telling me my reality is suffering? No, I have dwarfism. Anyway, here's what he said. Literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White. But you're still telling the story of Snow White and the 7 dwarfs. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making that fucking backward story about 7 dwarves living in a cave together. What the fuck are you doing, man? Have I done anything? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. I don't know which studio that is, but they were so proud of it. All love and respect to the actress and all the people who thought they were doing the right thing. But I'm just like, what are you doing, Peter Dinklage?
I'm confused. Is he saying that they should have hired an NBA team for the dwarves?
Apparently he doesn't like the idea of, you know, whatever. But he's also the guy who made a movie called Tippy Toes that we talked about on the High Noon show a few months back, where it was essentially a story of a family of dwarfs. And I think it was Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey is the only normal-sized family member in a family of dwarfs. And one of the dwarfs cast was Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman ain't a dwarf. So this movie actually made him and shrunk him down. And Peter Dinklage had no problem appearing in that. None whatsoever.
All right,
James, what are you showing us?
I mean, if you're a dwarf, and I don't know this, and I don't want to sound like a dick, but if you're a dwarf and you're pissed off at being used for being a dwarf, aren't you then more pissed off at the most successful guy bitching that he's a dwarf when he's successful as a dwarf?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that just kind of like really ream your ass? Like, we don't need a spokesperson because that is what you're famous for, that you're actually bitching about. I mean, let me bitch if I've had no success, but I think you bitching as somebody who's successful is kind of
bullshit. You know why?
Yeah.
Because every other out-of-work dwarf actor that isn't Peter Dinklage has been praying that they'd make a Seven Dwarfs movie so that they could get a paycheck.
Exactly.
All right.
He doesn't need it.
So what you're looking at is the new Seven Dwarfs. Peter Dinklage is the seventh, and then the six people to his right, our left, are the new crew that Snow White's going to be shacking up with. So we have like I don't know, is that like Patrick Mahomes grew his hair out, and then we have some surfer dude, and then we have some guy.
So this movie is really being made to Peter Dinklage's ego.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's like the only dwarf. What he gets to be
Right.
the only
Like,
dwarf.
hey, I'm as big as these guys, even though I'm this small.
6 of his dwarf brothers were not given a job because Peter Dinklage became a D-bag about this.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is.
It is weird.
And I want to go out, and I don't think this is disrespectful. In fact, I think this is absolutely respectful. I don't think being a dwarf is a handicap. You're just a short dude.
No, of course it's a handicap. Of course.
Well, you die quicker.
I mean, of course it's a handicap, James.
Well, no, look, they are
it is a handicap. The world is not designed for adults that size.
Right.
It's literally the definition of a handicap.
Diabetics die before most of us do too. They have a shorter life expectancy. There's a whole lot of things. But
Okay, but are you talking about diabetics who create that situation on their own, or those that are just born with diabetes? Because those people don't die quite as much as the other ones. You're mixing two things. A dwarf had no choice.
Whichever diabetes makes my point better.
The fat people.
Okay, how about this? It's marginally a handicap. It's like my mom gets to park. And the handicap
Dude, it's a real handicap. It's a real handicap.
It's barely a handicap. There's not a whole lot of jobs you're not qualified for because you're a dwarf.
6'4" James is telling the dwarfs of the world that it's barely a handicap.
Well, I'm telling. Look, any dwarf can come in and do my job just as good as I can. It's not any part of most of our jobs. My tax accountant could just as easily be a dwarf. A financial advisor could be a dwarf.
Right, but they can't get the cereal off the shelf at the grocery store because it's not a handicap. E, do you have a rating system? Give us your grade for Barbie. James, you got any ideas for a rating system? What do we do? 1 out of 4, 1 out of 10? E, how about you?
I mean, I would give it, if it were a 5 rating system, I would give it a solid 4.
4 out of 5?
Great.
4 out of 5.
Okay, all right, that's pretty good. 4 out of 5 for E for Barbie. That's very good. There you go.
Are you going to watch this?
And the reason for it is because I think they were so creative in not jamming all of today's racial issues in your face. They just kind of played around in it, but not really in it. You know,
that's because you're not a kind of guy that's looking for trouble. If you were the kind of guy that was looking for shit to be triggered by, you'd have found it, I'm sure.
Well, but I mean, like, no, I don't think. I think if you are triggered by the Barbie movie,
well, here's what I'm triggered
you are the problem.
James, why is Hollywood making movies that depict men as secondary to women? What's that about? Why were they allowed to do that in Barbie Land? Why was Ken made so ineffectual and impotent?
Well, because that's what Ken is in the real
damn
Barbie
right it is.
world.
So anybody that's got a problem with that is a weirdo. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Ken is second fiddle in the Barbie world. Right.
Right. Let's not turn it into a national debate.
Robin is second fiddle in the Batman world.
Right, but I'm saying I think if you are finding issue in the Barbie movie, you are part of what today's issue is.
Exactly.
This is not.
How wonderfully said.
This is not a movie for you to find an issue in. This is a comedy. I mean,
it's a stupid movie about a toy. It's a forget about your rough life, stupid movie about a toy. That's what it is.
And I think what got me in early, if I just am going to tell you, it was an actual scene in the movie that brought me back to when my sisters had Barbies or girls had Barbies, and they were broken in a way that my G.I. Joe would be broken. You know, like maybe a leg had come off at the knee, or a hand had come off, or an elbow, or there was something, this, that, or the other. And in this particular instance, as Barbie was driving out of Barbie Land, she basically was suffering now from flat foot. And so, because Barbies are always up on heels, well, somehow her foot had lost
Her arch has collapsed.
His arch, and so it was collapsing. And so she was having to go see Kate McKinnon, who was in charge of all like weird, messed up Barbies, like Barbies that girls had chopped the hair off
at
of.
Mattel Corp in the real world.
Oh, cool.
Or had taken a marker to their face, or had done some real weird stuff to their Barbies. And so she was like the queen of reconstructed, like redone Barbies. And it just, I don't know. It was crazy how they had twisted all of the kind of problems that the toy had into then real life Barbie world situations, and then twisted that into the real world.
All right, let's move on. You also, so by the way, I will say that you just brought up a memory for me, the whole intermingling of the G.I. Joe world in the Barbie world as kids. Growing up in the 70s, because the girls always had Barbies and the boys always had G.I. Joes, or Evil Knievel. I'll tell you, in my world, Evil Knievel and G.I. Joe committed some war crimes against the Barbie girls. There was, you always made them do stuff. You'd strip Barbie down. All right, you also saw Oppenheimer, speaking of war crimes. Tell me what you thought about that. This is the one that I'm most interested in. James, I assume that you are as well, most interested in seeing Oppenheimer.
Well, can I preface this? Because you're all going to be very disappointed with my ignorance again.
Yeah.
But the only thing I really know about Oppenheimer is when I watched Brain Candy in like the year 1997, the kids' movie Brain Candy, Don Roritor made a punchline about Oppenheimer, and I didn't know who that was. Now, I'm a college-educated man here, or I was in college when this happened. So I went and looked it up at the time. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the dude that made the atomic bomb. Pretty cool. And so then his name has come up.
I am become death, James. That was his licensed vanity plate. No, it wasn't, but that's his famous quote.
All right. So since then, I had like this initial burst of research into this dude 25 years ago when I was in college, when I was at ETBU.
You're talking about J. Robert Oppenheimer.
I guess. Yeah. Isn't that his name? I just know it's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's his name.
All right. So then his name has come up in other references, like on Jeopardy or Trivia Night or whatever. It's a name that kind of pops up, but I just really know his father, the atomic bomb. They took Einstein's work and just expanded it and applied it and then blew some stuff up. And then when the movie came out, I'm like, well, what is so interesting about this dude that they're going to be able to fill up 90 minutes of story about him?
Are you kidding me? Do you lack depth to that degree that you don't understand what could possibly be so interesting about a man that created a bomb that could change the world? You really are struggling.
Oh, that's dude. There's
a lack of depth, dude.
That's a lack of. There's probably like of all the guys on the Manhattan Project, I bet you 90% of them have very boring stories that wouldn't make a good movie.
Yes, Enrico Fermi is incredibly boring, but J. Robert Oppenheimer isn't. So you don't have any interest in seeing it, it sounds like.
No. So then, no. I'm intellectually curious, and just for the reason I said, of all the other people in the Manhattan Project, they're making a movie about this dude. And I went and read his Wikipedia page. And okay, so this dude's a sicko. This guy's got some real human problems, from what I gathered, just from his Wikipedia page. So I am half ignorant on this, and I just know the outline.
I need an example on that. What do you mean some real human problems? I mean, he was incredibly ruined by what he had done mentally. I mean, not mentally, but the rest of his life he carried around a burden. But I don't know about, what are you talking about ruined?
Well, tell us about the movie then.
Yeah, just tell us about Oppenheimer. Let James do a little bit of research there to bolster his point. What did you think of Oppenheimer? Well, by the way, hold on. Let me stop here. This movie has been made before. It was made in the 1920s. It was exceptional, nominated for Academy Awards and all that stuff, except back then it was called Fat Man and Little Boy. And it starred Paul Newman as General Leslie Groves, who was another very interesting guy who was in charge of the base where all of this was done, where Oppenheimer and his team actually built Fat Man and Little Boy. So if you need a little bit of like a ramp up to this whole story, Fat Man and Little Boy, Paul Newman, John Cusack, Laura Dern, I believe like 1995. Fat Man and Little Boy is excellent. How is Oppenheimer?
All right. So going into Oppenheimer, my expectations were higher than they were going into Barbie. Like I was thinking, okay, this movie kind of more down my lane. Barbie, not so much. So going in, I had higher expectations from the get go than I did for Barbie. Uh, as I got into it, it was long. It did have a part in it where I felt to myself, my God, this movie is long. And so for me, that's not generally a good sign that it's
No.
well, but I mean that it's moving along at a quick enough pace. And so I thought some of the stuff was drug out in several scenes. You know, the fact that he was a communist or they thought he was a communist and the communist and the communist and the communist, like that just seemed like, okay, I get it. He was, you know, possibly related to the communists and he may have had communist ties and this may have came from that side of the equation and there may have been spies related to it and blah, 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 blah. But the reality of it is we needed this bomb and regardless of what side he was on, you know, we were going to come hell or high water to make this bomb. And so that was, I guess, the main part of the story that kept on coming up. And, you know, the fact that he seemed like he had a very complicated, you know, personal life and relationships,
Dark.
you know, with spars and stuff or spies and stuff like that. You know, there was some weird stuff going on.
Yeah. So what did you think of the movie? I mean, I'll put it to you this way. You're right. When you set expectations, that's a problem. Richard Roper, one of America's foremost film critics, called it the best film of the century, which is more than just saying it's the best film of the year. So what did you think?
I thought it did a good job.
Is it going to win? Is anything else going to win an Oscar next year? Or while you were watching it, were you like, this is going to win everything?
The guy that's the main character that plays Oppenheimer.
Cillian Murphy. Yeah.
Cillian Murphy. That dude
is awesome.
Is an actor.
Yeah, he is.
I will just.
That's Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders. If you've ever heard of the television show Peaky Blinders, he plays the mob boss in Peaky Blinders. He has been incredible for decades. And this is the first time that Hollywood is going, that guy's a really good actor. We should give him something to work with. So I'm glad to hear you say that about him. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I watched him in Peaky Blinders, and he was excellent there, and that's where he won me over. And I watched this here, and he just did a good job with that. So I couldn't imagine them casting what I believe to be Oppenheimer from now seeing it any better. You know, he seemed like he fit that part. I guess I was expecting more carnage. You know, visual carnage in that, but then actually you got to see. But I can understand why you would maybe try to avoid that.
All right, so give me did you like it? Give me your star system.
I would rate it actually 3.8.
3.8? 3.8 out of 5?
Just a little bit behind Barbie.
Okay.
I would put it behind there. Probably because I had higher expectations for Barbie, and probably because I feel like if I were to watch either of them again, I would probably get more out of Barbie.
Oh, yeah.
The second time than I would get out of Oppenheimer.
That's a bit of an unfair comparison because I don't know that a movie like Oppenheimer you can watch multiple times. You know, for me, there are just certain movies. You see Schindler's List. Saw it once. I don't need to see it again. I pretty much get that. James, did you have anything? I know that you were furiously looking up some information. Any thoughts on the Oppenheimer thing?
I was just hesitant to try and recall details that I just learned on Saturday. Like I am well versed on the topic. I just didn't want to sound like an idiot. That's why I was going to E. But no, he had did it cover some of his relationship issues because he supposedly had affairs with like married chicks, and some of them were his friends, and a bunch of communists were sleeping around with each other's wives. And
see, but why is that so? Like, I know people who are having affairs with married chicks. So do you. That's like normal. That doesn't necessarily, that's not the mark of Satan on somebody.
Of course not. No, but it makes for a better movie fodder than the guy that was standing to his right that had a very boring life.
Oh, what you're saying is you were looking for a little bit more than just him doing physics for 3 hours, which I can understand.
Yeah. There was a lot of the Communist Party and who was in the party and trying to get him to join the party and the government chasing him. You know, it just seemed like that spy kind of, oh, this is going on, following him around kind of crap. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. We've got Barbie. E has given Barbie 4 out of 5 stars. He has given Oppenheimer 3.8 out of 5 stars.
Beautifully specific, though.
Yes, absolutely. All right, now let's hear about the summer sleeper hit, the third movie that E saw this weekend. It is Sounds of Freedom. Tell me about this one, E.
So this one, I really didn't know what to expect. Like, I didn't know what Sounds of Freedom was, what it was about. I had heard from my wife that this is a movie we need to go see.
Church.
And so
she heard about it at church.
She was like, okay, fine, we'll go see it. And then we started talking about it. Some other people it was on the boat who had seen it, and they were like, oh yeah, you need to go see. You need to go see it. And so I was like, what's it about? And they're like, oh, it's going to make you, you know, get teared up at the end. It's a pretty sad movie, and it's about child trafficking. And so I was like, okay. So I went in, I sat down, and I watched a movie about child trafficking. And wow, dude, is all I can say. Like it opens up my eyes to a whole other thing that could be going on at the border. But I still don't understand why then, if the church is sending people to this movie, that the right is so against immigration.
What do you mean? Expand on that.
Well, because it appears like that children in other countries are trafficked in these dubious ways and taken from their parents and sold 4 or 5 times a day. And they're sold as like a slave, literally, for maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And so the child sex trafficking industry is making billions of dollars on a product that literally costs them $2,000 to $5,000 to get at that childhood level. And to think that people are having sex with these kids at those ages.
Nah, never mind.
But anyway, and so how they went about exposing the ring, how they caught these people, how they got in and just exposed something, and then the fight that they had to get this movie into the theaters because the people that they were exposing were at these high levels. I mean, it's just, you got to go see it.
Okay. They had trouble getting into theaters because it didn't have major distribution it's an independent film. All independent films have trouble getting into theaters. This one broke.
But they had promises from big theaters that backed out.
Okay. The reason that this thing did eventually get into theaters is because they had that brilliant marketing ploy of pre-selling tickets to church groups. That's how they got the theaters. They weren't being locked out. Independent films are always locked out from major theater distribution. But that is
no, they said that they had a deal, and you can watch movies and see.
Yeah, I'm sure they said that. Yeah.
They said that they had a deal, and that deal had gotten blocked.
Yeah, everybody's saying it. They're all talking about it.
Well, James, but I don't know. All I can say is they made it up the hill.
It sounds like a fascinating movie. It's been criticized because a lot of it hasn't happened. Tim Ballard himself has said that a lot of what the main plot point in the movie is completely made up. He never ran into the wood. Well, here, I'll read it to you. The film.
Right. This is a work of fiction, though, right?
It is. But people are going around thinking it's real.
Well, Amel's not an idiot, and he thought, well, this is some eye-opening stuff about what's going on at the border.
Right.
Really, I thought it was a work of fiction.
The film is inspired by the life of Tim Ballard. It says here, where is it? Ballard stated that some things in this film have definitely been overreported. He did not go into the jungle by himself to rescue a little girl, nor did he kill a man to rescue the child. According to Ballard, the other thing is the film's central plot point that a brother and sister lured to a photo shoot in Honduras is not an event that Ballard has claimed actually happened and was entirely fictionalized for the story. According to American Crime Journal reporters, Ballard embellishes details about the story told in the film. It's a fiction. It's a work of fiction. This guy seems to have a job that's incredibly admirable, but they had to just jazz it up to make it more interesting.
Well, but I think the reality of it is there is child trafficking here, and then there's child trafficking there, and it's how child trafficking there ends up here that is reality of that situation. I think the United States are the biggest purveyors of child pornography. And so that's why I think we're seeing.
Are we more than China or India? I mean, Brazil.
I think ultimately in this trafficking ring that they were exposing, that was the situation, because you had dudes that were going down there and bringing these kids over the border as if they're uncles, and
see, a lot of this, Pugs, it makes more sense when you think of it as a disposable income thing, because we do more cocaine than China, even though there's 5 times as many Chinese people, because we have more disposable income.
Dude, wait. See, I know you say that, but do you know that for a fact we do more cocaine than China? Because I would be shocked if that was true. I would think China would do 100 times more than us. They have billions.
We can't know for a fact, but from the skewed numbers that we do get from China, it would appear that overall they do less drugs than we do.
Well, also, and Russia never had a plane crash in the 50 years of the Cold War.
Right. And so if you're skeptical of that stat, I am too, but it's the best we have, and I'm not pulling that out of my butthole.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, so now here's the thing about this.
See, because you say it's fictional, right? I'm like, okay,
I don't know.
Well, I'm like, okay, so they did probably make it a little bit more movie friendly, but I still believe that the concepts that they showed, although they may not have been actual, those concepts that they showed were ways that kids were abducted, and ways that the United States can sometimes help.
I can buy that.
Did you like it? I mean, I want to see it. I mean,
I like of all of them.
I want to see Oppenheimer, and I want to see
that was the one that I had the least expectations for. And probably was most moved by.
Yeah. All right. So what would you give it? Come on, we got to do this. Out of your scale of 5, 4 out of 5.
I'd give it a 4-1.
I don't even know how to say. Really?
Just ahead of Barbie.
All right. Sound of Freedom. E gives it a 4.1. All right. Who else is in it other than the Caviezel guy? Anybody?
I mean, there's like some scary characters.
So no. Okay, so no.
No, but I'm not a good movie guy. I'm just trying to think. Like, no, there's not anybody that I can go, yeah, I remember him. I mean, they look like jungle kind of people.
Oh, Jesus.
What is that? What is jungle kind of people?
Well, like tribal, you know what I mean? Like they like not people that were here in America that you would see. No, like they got paint on their face.
You know, like the Jews, tribal, Same thing.
Warm in here.
Right. Well, there you go. That's going to end our movie.
Well, they go into some part of the Colombian
tomorrow, folks.
Colombian whatever it is, jungle, where it's not even made by manned by the Colombian government. Like it's literally
I don't even know. Was that a sentence? All right, let's move forward here. That's E's Weekend at the Movies. Let's wrap this show up with another edition of Whose is Bigger? This time, coming off the big weekend of Hollywood, we are going to do, James, Whose is Bigger? Box office bombs. We're going to talk about some films made over the past 30 years or so. I'm going to give you 2 films that bombed tremendously. You tell me which bombed bigger. Boys, sound good? You understand the rules?
Is this the movie that made the less amount of money, or the movie that busted its budget the most, came in under budget the most?
That's actually a really good question. What we're going to do is we're going to give you the percentage of money lost. So I've got it all right here. I've got the percentages. So like, for instance, we'll start at the very top, okay? The biggest bomb of all time is a film called The 13th Warrior. It was released in 1999. It had an estimated loss of $121 million. Number 2 is 47 Ronin, which was made in 2013. That had an estimated loss of 120.5. So it's going to be like estimated loss against budget, not how much it made, how much they thought it was going to make. How much did they lose on this film? Who lost more?
I thought Heaven's Gate was the biggest loser ever.
No, that. First of all, that was 1980. There's been 40 years of bombs since then, but yeah, but Heaven's Gate was a very big bomb.
Heaven's Gate was the movie. Heaven's Gate was the cult. Like
Heaven's Gate is
White, right?
Heaven's Gate is Michael Cimino, Chris Christopherson. It's an awesome, awesome movie. It's a goddamn masterpiece. And yeah, it bombed. It was supposed to be like, it was hyped as like the new Citizen Kane. And I don't know, for some reason, nobody went and saw it in 1980. But then, Colt got discovered on Colt, and people are like, this is really a good movie. I'm like, I know. All right, if you're ready, we're going to play Whose is Bigger? Bigger box office disasters. James, in 2016. Wait, I lost it. In 2016, Hollywood did something that James referenced earlier. They took something that had been popular in the past and remade it. James, what was the bigger bomb? The 2016 remake of Ben-Hur, or E, the 2015 rock-helmed film Black Adam? Which was a bigger bomb? Whose is bigger? The people who made Ben-Hur, the remake, or the people who made Black Adam, which was one of them woke superhero movies starring The Rock?
Who's only half black, strange.
Gentlemen, whose is bigger? Ben-Hur or Black Adam?
Half Samoan Adam would have been cool too. I just saw the original Ben-Hur a couple months ago when my wife's grandmother was in town, and she's like, "Oh, this is a very good movie. You should watch it." It was a 3-hour investment, lady. Damn it! I was up until like 1 a.m.
You stayed up though because it was great.
It was great. It was great, and I didn't even know they did a remake to that.
They did. All right, which is a bigger bomb?
Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur, James says. E, do you agree or disagree? Ben-Hur is a bigger bomb than Black Adam?
I disagree. Black Adam.
Disagree. James, you're correct. Ben-Hur lost $91 million. Black Adam lost $50 million. Gentlemen, what was the bigger bomb? The 2019 film version of the Broadway hit Cats, or the 2000 John Travolta disaster Battlefield Earth? Whose loss is bigger? Whose is bigger? The Scientology. Remember, that was the Scientology movie, Battleship Earth, Battlefield Earth. Which is the bigger disaster?
Wait, that was a Scientology movie?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, so the only thing
that was L. Ron Hubbard wrote that script. That was one of his failed science fiction stories.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that till just now. Okay. So Cats. The only thing I really remember about that is that didn't they have to go back and like CGI all the buttholes off the cats?
Probably.
Like, why did y'all put that in the costume? That's gross. They're like, well, cats have buttholes. Well, no one wants to see that, so they went back and CGI'd it all out. That's very expensive, but it sounds like the other one's probably more expensive. Battlefield Earth a sci-fi movie has a budget that could just be catastrophically out of this world, no pun intended. So I'm leaning Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth is a bigger bomb than, what was the other one? What was the other choice? Cats. That's right. Battlefield Earth, bigger bomb than Cats. E, do you agree or disagree?
Well, first of all, I think they could have saved some money on the CGI if they would have just used Good and Plenty's on the cats. And then I'm going to go with Battlefield Earth.
What's with the Good and Plenty? What do you?
I didn't get that reference, but I didn't want to push it, James. There you went. Go ahead, E. Now you got to answer. Explain that.
Hell.
Well, if you inserted the Good and Plenty, where you had to put the CGI graphics, you wouldn't have.
All right, and the winner is. What were your choices?
Sticking a piece of candy into a fake costume cat butthole. Was one of them.
Battlefield Earth lost $125 million. Cats lost $81 million.
That is so much money to just lose.
All right.
CGI.
Let's try this one, folks. The 2016 Mark Wahlberg real-life disaster film Deepwater Horizon did not wow at the box office. That was the story of that oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico and the fire and all of that. Deepwater Horizon was a huge bomb. But was it a bigger bomb? Oh, wait. Was that? Oh, that was the wrong. Or what? That's it. Was it a bigger bomb than the much hyped Fantastic Four from 2015? Fantastic Four. Oh, we were all looking forward to the Fantastic Four in 2015. But
Scarlett Johansson Fantastic Four.
This is the one with who are these clowns? Let me look at them. It stars Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, and Tobey Maguire. That's a pretty good cast.
Dang.
It bombed. All right, which bombed bigger, the Fantastic Four or what was the
Fantastic Four? Because I would never vote against Scarlett Johansson, but she ain't in that. So
no.
Fantastic Four. I remember
Deepwater
Horizon looks like it could have a high budget, but it also looks like it has a built-in audience too.
Deepwater Horizon had a $110 million budget. It lost 70.
Let Emil guess. He didn't guess yet.
Oh.
Well, I'm going to go with Deepwater Horizon.
So the real life story. Deepwater Horizon is correct. Deepwater Horizon lost $73 million. The Fantastic Four, 99. All right.
Wait, 99 million? Then that's a winner.
No, well, you're right, because I didn't, but against the budget. The Fantastic Four had a budget 4 times higher. So
okay.
the law, it's less. Let's see here. What else do we have? 2016. Oh, what was 2016? 2016, they remade. Is this a remake? What is this one? Hold on. It just says Ghostbusters 2016 there.
Yeah, they remade that.
That's the chick Ghostbusters. This is a fun one. Gentlemen, whose is bigger? And by this, we mean box office losses. 2016's version, all-female version of Ghostbusters, or 2003's much maligned Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez film, Geely. Bigger bomb, Geely or Girl Ghostbusters? James?
I would think the Girl Ghostbusters would have to have a bigger budget than a rom-com, but I remember Geely being such a punchline. I actually had an old Pugs and Kelly PSA where Geely was a punchline.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna lean Geely.
It says Geely was a bigger box office bomb than the Ghostbusters with all women. E, how about you?
I'm going to go with Geely.
Gonna go with Geely. Nah, Geely's not it. It is, of course, Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters lost about $91 million. Geely, only about 50. But, 50, that's a lot. I say only about 50. All right, last one here. Let me see if I can find a good one for you. Let me see if I can find something good. No, I don't want to do that. I love that movie. Oh, okay. Here you go. Here's a couple. Gentlemen, whose is bigger? The 2003 monumental bomb, Johnny Depp, Army Hammer led The Lone Ranger. Remember this bomb? 2013. The Lone Ranger, or what's that?
I didn't even know that bombed. I thought that was a popular show.
Oh, it was a massive bomb. Which is a bigger bomb? The Lone Ranger. Well, dude, it was 10 years ago now, and there hasn't been a sequel. That's how you know. That's how you know. It's like, we're moving away.
Good point.
2013's and Army Hammer can't work anymore. Remember, he did the whole cannibal thing. Got Me Too'd because he's not a rapist, but a cannibal. That's a weird thing. Anyway, The Lone Ranger or 2012's mega bomb, John Carter. You remember John Carter? They tried to give Tim Riggins from Friday Night Lights a big movie. He was a superhero.
Oh, yeah. Wifey loves Taylor Kitsch, and so I'll go watch anything that he's in because the likelihood of me scoring that night goes up by about 36%. So I remember wanting to go see John Carter because, hey, it's a long movie, but even if it's not any good, when I get home, I'll get some. And then I heard it was so bad, I didn't go even bother ever watching it. So I'm going John Carter. Bigger bomb.
Is it John Carter, the story of a Confederate soldier during the Civil War suddenly transported to Mars to fight Martian dragons? Or, I think that's pretty much it. Or is it the Lone Ranger, which is the bigger bomb? Whose is bigger?
I mean, I'm going to be disappointed if this is true, but I'm going to go with the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. It is John Carter. John Carter lost $100 million. The Lone Ranger, $90 million.
Oh, that's astronomically bad. Both of them. Jesus Lord. It's so funny that does it really cost this much to make a movie? And then you hear about like what life is like on the set where, you know, someone's doing your makeup, someone picks out your clothes. They always have it's catered. So there's the craft services table. There's runners. If you need to go get something, they'll just run to the store for you. And it's like, y'all can make a lot of cutbacks here. Y'all don't have to be so opulent. And maybe instead of costing $300 million to make it, it could just cost $200 million. But what do I know?
Okay, so you're describing independent film, and the whole reason that these people become movie stars is that they can indulge in their opulence, so that they can have an entire floor of suites that nobody will stay in, but they'll put it in the budget and they'll block them off and they'll pay the hotel for the entire floor of suites for a week, and no one will sleep in them for the whole week. But that's part of the movie making process.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous.
Hey, that's what it looks like at the top when $500 million are hanging in the balance of revenues on a blockbuster. 1% slip here and there looks like a whole lot of money.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. That's Whose is Bigger for today, Tuesday, on the Radio Misfits show. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:00. We do this every Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. My back feels great, man. I cannot tell you. Once again, folks, this CBD soothing cream from Sacred Oils. Sacred Oils, 13740 Midway Road in beautiful Farmers Branch, Texas. Tell them Pugs 20. Get 20% off. It really does work. It's pretty incredible. James, where can people find your Florida stories and whatnot?
Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Okay, he's just naming platforms.
Apple Podcasts.
Anywhere you get your podcasts, as they famously say. E, how about you? Anything in closing? All right, that's going to be it for him. He's gone. There he goes. James, anything in closing?
Nothing.
All right, he's gone too. We are all gone now. That's going to do it. Thank you for joining us here on the Radio Misfits. As I say, we do it every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. We talk about whatever the hell the world's talking about or whatever it is that we want to talk about. Appreciate you being here every night. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for my noon show, High Noon. Just me talking about current events and hot topics and trends. If it's a headline, if it's something that's happened in the world, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow at noon. That's every Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Love to y'all. Be good to one another, as they say. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. Tomorrow is another day, the best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest